Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Geopolitics at the Land of Origins. Before we dive deep into our today's topic, let me ask you one most important question. What if one country's decision could shake the entire global economy, trigger a regional war, and redraw the map of East Africa? Right now, that country is Ethiopia. A landlocked giant is now pushing toward one of the most strategic waterways on Earth, the Red Sea. And the question is no longer if tensions will rise, but how far this crisis could go. In our today's video, we are exploring one of the most dangerous and fast-changing geopolitical stories in the world, the growing Red Sea crisis, and why Ethiopia may be ready to risk everything to gain access to the sea. This is not just about one country. It is about power, survival, and influence in a region where local conflicts can quickly become global. To understand this crisis, we must first understand why the Red Sea matters so much. The Red Sea is not just a body of water. It is one of the most important trade routes in the world, connecting Europe to Asia through the Suez Canal. A large portion of global trade passes through this route, including oil, food, and essential goods. If this route is disrupted, the effects are immediate. Prices rise, supply chains are affected, and economies across the world begin to feel the pressure. Now imagine a conflict emerging right next to this critical pathway. That is why the world is watching East Africa more closely than ever before. At the center of this story is Ethiopia, one of Africa's largest and fastest-growing nations. But despite its size and ambition, Ethiopia faces a major challenge. It has no coastline. Since the early 1990s, Ethiopia has been landlocked and has relied heavily on neighboring countries, especially Djibouti, for access to international trade. This dependence is costly and strategically risky. As a result, Ethiopia is now making a bold and determined move. It wants direct access to the Red Sea, not just for economic reasons, but for long-term national security and regional influence. And this is where tensions begin to rise. Ethiopia's push toward the sea is creating serious concern among its neighbors. Somalia strongly opposes any move that could affect its territorial control, especially along its coastline. Eritrea, which lies directly on the Red Sea, has a long and complicated relationship with Ethiopia, marked by periods of conflict and fragile peace. Any sign of Ethiopia moving closer to the coast raises alarms in Eritrea. At the same time, Egypt, already locked in a dispute with Ethiopia over the Nile River, is strengthening its relationships with countries that oppose Ethiopia's regional ambitions. What we are beginning to see is a web of alliances forming, with different countries taking different sides. But this situation is no longer limited to the region. Global powers are also becoming increasingly involved. The United States, China, and influential Gulf nations such as Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates all have strong strategic interests in the Red Sea. Control and influence over this area mean control over global trade routes. Some of these countries are building military bases, while others are investing heavily in ports and infrastructure. Each one is positioning itself for influence in a region that is becoming more important by the day. And when global powers become involved in regional tensions, the risks increase significantly. So what happens next? That is the question no one can fully answer. What we are seeing now includes rising political tension, strategic agreements, and signs of military preparation. But there has not yet been a full-scale conflict. The real danger is how quickly things could escalate. A small clash, a political misunderstanding, or a proxy conflict could grow into something much larger. History has shown us how quickly regional tensions can spiral out of control when multiple actors are involved. This situation matters not only to the countries directly involved but to the wider world. If the Red Sea becomes unstable, global trade could slow down, fuel prices could rise, and food supply chains could be disrupted. For countries in East Africa, the consequences could be even more severe, affecting economies, livelihoods, and stability. This is not just a geopolitical story. It is a real situation that could impact millions of lives. What we are witnessing is a powerful and complex moment. A rising nation is pushing toward the sea, determined to secure its future. Neighboring countries are reacting with concern and resistance. Global powers are quietly stepping in, each with their own interests. And all of this is unfolding around one of the most critical waterways in the world. The Red Sea is no longer just a trade route. It is becoming a center of competition, ambition, and potential conflict. The situation is still developing, and there is still space for diplomacy and peaceful resolution. But the direction we are heading in is one that demands attention. The choices made in the coming months and years could shape the future of East Africa and influence global stability in ways we are only beginning to understand. If you found this analysis insightful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this crisis will lead to conflict, or can it be resolved peacefully? This is Geopolitics at the Land of Origins, where we break down the world's most important stories in a clear and powerful way. See you in the next video.